I used to believe that the strongest thing I had built in my life was my business. I was wrong. It was my family. Or at least, that's what I thought. 22 years of marriage, 2 children, a house filled with laughter, birthdays, late-night movies, and Sunday breakfasts. My wife, Samina, used to tell everyone I was her safe place. I believed her. I believed every smile, every touch, every "I love you." Until my son walked into my study one night and quietly closed the door behind him. "Dad," he said, his voice shaking, "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise you won't yell." That sentence changed everything. At first, I thought it was about school, maybe trouble, maybe a fight. But then he said something that made my chest go cold. "Mom isn't going to her yoga classes." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Of course she is." He swallowed. "She's meeting someone." The room felt smaller. I laughed, an automatic defensive reaction. "Don't say nonsense." But he didn't back down. He looked at me the way a boy looks at his father when he's about to break his heart. "I've seen her. I followed her once. She meets a man at a cafe near Goldberg. They don't act like friends." I felt like someone had poured ice water down my spine. "And your sister?" I asked. His eyes dropped. "She knows." That hurt even more than the accusation. My daughter, Ariba, had always been her mother's shadow. They shared secrets, went shopping together, laughed about things I wasn't part of. I thought it was normal. I thought it was mother-daughter closeness, but now it felt like betrayal layered on top of betrayal. I didn't confront Samina that night. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. Instead, I did something she never expected. I watched. The next week, I adjusted my schedule. I left work early on Wednesday, her usual yoga day. I parked across the street from the cafe my son had mentioned, and there she was, not in yoga clothes, in a red dress I had bought her for our anniversary. She was sitting across from a man I had never seen before. He was younger than me, cleaner haircut, flashier watch. He leaned forward when he spoke, touching her hand casually, like it belonged to him, and she didn't pull away. I sat there gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. 22 years. And she risked it for this? But the real knife came later that night. When I walked into the living room, Samina was laughing with Ariba. My daughter looked at her mother and said, "Did you have a good session?" And they shared a look of conspiracy. That was the moment something inside me shifted. My wife was cheating. My daughter was covering for her. But my son, my quiet, observant son, chose me. I didn't explode. I didn't confront them immediately. Instead, I started planning. If Samina wanted to play games, I would show her I was a better player. First, I gathered evidence, photos, dates, messages. It wasn't hard. She had grown careless, late-night texting, smiling at her phone, locking it when I entered the room. My son helped me access our home security system logs. He showed me timestamps of when she left and returned. He didn't say much, but I saw the anger in his eyes. "She thinks I don't see anything," he muttered once. The next step was financial. For years, I had handled most of our investments. Properties were in both our names, but I was the primary decision maker. Quietly, legally, I began restructuring. I moved assets, secured accounts, spoke to a lawyer. I wasn't going to be the fool left begging in court. Meanwhile, Samina grew bolder. She stayed out later. She argued with me over small things, maybe to justify what she was doing. "You've changed," she told me one night. "No," I replied calmly. "Maybe you have." She didn't like that answer. The breaking point came at a family dinner. My brother and his wife were visiting. Samina's phone buzzed repeatedly. Ariba quickly reached across the table and flipped it face down. "Probably her yoga group," my daughter said too quickly. I looked at both of them and smiled. That smile made Samina uncomfortable. 2 weeks later, I invited everyone, including my brother's family, over for what I called a special announcement dinner. Samina seemed confused but pleased. Ariba looked nervous. My son sat quietly beside me. After dessert, I stood up and cleared my throat. "I just want to thank my family," I began, "for always being honest with me, for loyalty." Samina smiled uncertainly. Then I connected my laptop to the TV. The first photo appeared, Samina in the red dress, holding another man's hand. The room went silent. Her face drained of color. Ariba gasped. My brother's wife covered her mouth. "What is this?" Samina whispered. "You tell me," I replied calmly. Then came screenshots, security timestamps, cafe receipts. "I trusted you for 22 years," I said, my voice steady but heavy, "and you turned my own daughter into your accomplice." Ariba started crying. "Dad, I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did," I said gently. "Every single day." Samina tried to defend herself. "It wasn't serious. You were distant. I was lonely." I looked at her with a strange sense of detachment. "You could have talked to me. Instead, you lied, and you taught our daughter that betrayal is acceptable." Then I dropped the final blow. "I've already filed for divorce." Her head snapped up. "And before you start calculating," I continued, "you should know most of our major assets are now legally protected. I made sure of that." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. "I'm not destroying you," I said quietly. "You did that yourself." Ariba ran to her room in tears. Samina collapsed into a chair. My son sat beside me, silent but strong. That night, Samina tried to talk privately. "You're humiliating me," she said. "You humiliated yourself," I replied. "What about the kids?" "I'm thinking about them. Are you?" The divorce was messy emotionally, but legally clean. She hadn't expected me to prepare. She thought I would beg or forgive. Ariba didn't speak to me for weeks. She blamed me for exposing everything publicly. But slowly, reality sank in. She saw how her mother's perfect lover disappeared once money and stability were gone. He didn't want a divorced woman with baggage. My son, on the other hand, grew closer to me. We started spending weekends together, talking more. He told me he had struggled for months, watching his mother lie to my face. "I didn't want our family to break," he admitted. "Neither did I said. "But sometimes the truth breaks what lies we're holding together." A year later, my life looked different, quieter, smaller, but peaceful. Samina moved into an apartment across town. Ariba eventually apologized to me one evening, tears in her eyes. "I thought I was protecting her," she said. "I didn't realize I was hurting you." I hugged her. "We all make mistakes," I told her. "But loyalty matters." As for revenge, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about public exposure. It was about dignity. Samina lost the image she cared about most, the perfect wife, the respected woman, the stable home. And she lost the man who would have forgiven anything, except betrayal involving our children. My son once asked me if I regretted exposing her that way. I thought about it carefully. "No," I said finally, "because sometimes the only way to stop a lie is to turn on the lights." And when the lights came on, everyone saw the truth, including me.